Hailing from the great cold state of Alaska, we are the Frozen Gamers Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Dugas. Joining me today on Monday, May 27th, is the man whose name in Swahili is loosely translated Hairy Snowman, Mr. John Flynn.
Apparently I'm the Hairy Snowman. That's fantastic. I didn't even know that, and that's me.
I've been working on some different intros.
Well, I like it.
So, to start us off, I mean, obviously it's been a couple weeks since we last recorded. Schedules just haven't really worked out.
Well, and the weather here in Alaska finally went from winter to summer. We kind of skipped spring, actually. We had snow like a week or two ago.
Yeah, literally. On Saturday it was snowing last week, and on Sunday it was sunny and warm.
And today it was like 70 degrees. So tell me how that works. I don't get it.
Yeah. It's great, though.
I'm okay with it now that I have shorts on.
So, John, how are things going?
Oh, not too bad. Like I said, busy schedules, working stuff out, but, still getting some time in for gaming, and glad that we can get the podcast up and going again.
Definitely.
So, yeah, definitely. What have you been up to then?
Oh, well, obviously work. I mean, things have been pretty nuts. Our server went down a couple weeks ago. It kind of got dropped. My boss, who's the tech guy, was trying to move the server, and it just got slightly dropped. It damaged the hard drives, and so everything that was on the hard drives was lost. Even though we had been doing online backup through this company, apparently the company decided that they were going to start charging extra to back up for a certain amount of data or something like that. I can't remember what it was, but they didn't tell us, and this was back in October of last year.
Oh, of course.
So basically after about October 8th, give or take, they stopped backing up our data. And when they were fixing our hard drives, they said that they recovered everything, they were cloning the hard drives, and then over the weekend, they lost it all. So basically, we've been playing catch-up and re-entering, 7 months' worth of data.
Oh my gosh.
And,
well,
I mean, it's coming along, but I still have to get quite a bit done before the end of the week so I can do billing for next month.
Yeah, quite a bit of extra stress at it, though. So do you have a local backup solution now?
Yeah, now the way it's set up is it's backing up everything to each of the individual computers, and we have like 6 computers.
Excellent.
There's a better online backup that we know for sure is actually going to back it up, and if they change something, they'll let us know. And then, of course, we have new hard drives in the server, and that's been taken care of. And it was just, the array was set up incorrectly by Dell when they first sent it out, which is kind of idiotic. You'd think Dell would know what they're doing, but apparently they didn't. And so we just had all sorts of issues, and we're working on it. I mean, at least we have our computers up, and
good. I've
gotten a lot done, and anyway, that's enough about work.
That just goes to show you, though, that disaster can strike anywhere, even when you don't expect it. You know, your data on your computer isn't as safe as you think sometimes, which is unfortunate.
The one thing that has been probably the most difficult is, it's not so much doing the work that's the issue, it's the fact that I'm doing the work that I've already done.
Mm-hmm. I can understand that. I've done that before. And
so it's just, there's so much to do there, and it's ridiculous. But what's kind of been the most inconvenient for me personally is, I normally have lots of free time, and so I usually, I get all of my work done. I always answer the phones. I always make customers first priority. But my boss is cool with me playing games or,
which is awesome.
Whatever, and that's where I got a lot of my time in for Monster Hunter and whatnot. And because of this past week and a half, I've not really had any time for that. So it's pretty much just been 8 hours of continuous mind-numbing work, even though I like my job. And then when I get home, I play video games for several hours.
That's always a good way to unwind. I know that for sure.
And that's a good segue into what we're currently playing and watching. So,
well, currently playing right now, I went old school and I installed Morrowind again on my computer. and actually going to attempt to complete the main story. Because last time I did everything else but the main story, so I don't even know what it is anymore. But I found a really awesome. It's called like Morrowind Overhaul, and it's like hundreds of mods that guys have accumulated and put together. Really keeps it original, but makes it look a lot prettier. Updates it really well, so that's really fun right now. Replaying some old stuff. And then, of course, Steam had a ridiculous deal this past weekend on the Unreal tournaments. It was like $10 for like all of them.
Wow.
So I picked that up. I almost missed it, actually. Picked that up, so I've been playing that a little bit. They're pretty fun if you like first-person shooter, but...
Oh, yeah, well, I remember the original Unreal tournament. My cousin, when he was living with us, back when I was like 13, he had the original Unreal tournament on his computer, and I just remember watching him play it, and he had this huge gun, and I don't remember what it was called, but it's one shot, but it's incredibly powerful, and he did 6 headshots lined up.
Oh, nice! No,
it was very impressive. It very much stuck in my memory. But
I would think so.
I still have yet to play any of those. And
my best I've ever done in a game was 3 headshots in a row. One of those was my own teammate because he walked in front of me. It was pretty funny though. Like I was sitting down, I got a perfect sniper's position, fired, and just as I fired, teammate walks in front, killed him, killed a guy, killed another guy behind the guy I was aiming at. But of course, the team kill took off some points. It was totally worth it though. But I've never gotten 6 headshots in a row. That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool.
So any other stuff?
Not for games really. It's kind of been low key since the weather's been so ridiculously nice. I've been outside a lot, shooting some bow and whatnot, working on that again. Being manly in Alaska, you know.
Yeah. Really manly.
Exactly. Grow our beards. But other than that, watching Arrested Development Season 4, as you know.
Yeah.
And since that just came out, so far so good.
Yeah, I definitely have to say that it's much different from the other seasons, and I kind of knew that it was going to be that way going in, but it's kind of weird to see how it is, you know. I know that the major reason why it is that the episodes are so different is that people's schedules didn't work out to where they could have a lot of interaction between the various actors,
right?
And so they ended up just doing separate stories,
right? Although as the more we're watching it is kind of cool how it's laying out.
It's kind of weaving itself together, and I imagine by the end of the season, we'll see everything a lot more clearly than we do now.
And the way that they're almost filmed, it could almost be like a continuous. Like, if you took each scene and how it lined up, you could almost play it as a continuous movie. Yeah. Not quite. I mean, there's certain parts that are redundant. But I do kind of like... It definitely is different from the other ones, but I do like how it's rolling out so far.
Yeah, it would be kind of interesting to see what would happen if they decided... I mean, if Netflix actually releases them on DVD and Blu-ray as well, and maybe they did, like... something to where you could watch all of the scenes in order.
Right.
Because they did that with Lost with Season 4, because,
Oh, did they? I must have missed that.
Well, on the Blu-ray.
Okay.
Probably on the Blu-ray and the DVD, but if you... I mean, they have it so that, all the different flash-forwards and flashbacks are put in order so that it's clear what happens in what order.
That would be very nice to see.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I mean, of course... some of the flash forwards were kind of boring to watch after a while, just because I had seen it before. But
right, well, and part of it, obviously, watching it the first time, Lost, and Season 4 of Arrested Development, I do really like. As you're watching it, you're figuring out more stuff, and you have to put some of the pieces together. I really like that part, but it would be cool, like you said, to be able to see it in continuous. Maybe it's an option. It'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm not really expecting Netflix to give up as an exclusive streaming thing.
Right.
I imagine that most likely they're just going to keep it streaming.
And I wouldn't blame them for that.
Yeah. I mean, that way they can keep it, exclusive to them at all times, even though I could also see, I think that what they really should do is they should make the DVDs and Blu-rays available, but they sell them directly through Netflix. So that way people have to buy it through Netflix. They can't sell them third party. I mean, they can't sell them through Amazon or whatever.
Right.
But I imagine that most likely they won't even do that. So
An extra hassle for them, probably. I don't even know if they'd have that type of marketing set up for... Or, I mean,
Well, I think at one point they used to actually sell used DVDs.
Oh, did they?
But,
Oh, okay.
I mean, I could be remembering wrong. It was years and years ago. I mean, it was probably back so.
Okay.
So,
Interesting. Yeah, definitely a good series so far. And of course, the originals are fantastic.
Mm.
But what games have you been playing?
Well, let's see here. Over the past 3 weeks since we last recorded, I did mess around with Infamous a bit.
Okay. And what'd you think?
I haven't formed a complete opinion on it because I only played for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Fair enough. Finish the game first, then let me know.
I think that it's something that will probably be the next game on my list to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But the only thing I have to say that I wasn't as much a fan of is I really think that they should have had some type of lock-on feature for the shooting, just because it kind of felt like that. I just think that would have added a lot to the combat. I think that, still having the ability to free aim as you wish, but that's one thing that I really like about like the Rockstar games is that they have the lock-on feature, which just makes it a lot easier, and it helps to keep the combat flow from breaking up a bit. I mean, of course, I'm also not a person who's good at dual joystick aiming anyway, so that's a big part of the reason why I don't like that so much. But either way, I'll definitely play more of the game because I started playing that, and at the same time, since Sleeping Dogs became available as a free game through PlayStation Plus, no extra charge, I started playing that I played that.
Is that the first one?
There's only one.
I'm thinking of a different one. Never mind.
Yeah, but Sleeping Dogs is pretty. Pretty excellent.
I was thinking Saints Row.
Oh, Saints Row.
Totally different.
No, yes. Sleeping Dogs is like a Chinese Grand Theft Auto, basically.
Right.
Set in China. And it's really good so far, what I've played. But
cool.
I only played a little bit just because I kind of wanted to get a feel for it. And then I played a lot of Monster Hunter, obviously. But that is until after my anniversary when I got a couple of new games. Megan got me Animal Crossing Wild World for Nintendo DS, which is pretty fun. It's actually rather addictive. It's really, really, really simple game, but it's very addictive. But even better was Lego City Undercover for Wii U, which you've seen a little bit of the gameplay.
And it looks really fun.
It is so much fun, and I just finished the story a couple days ago, and it was just incredibly fun. So funny. I mean, the only game that's made me laugh anywhere near that hard is Portal 2.
I did laugh
Portal
a lot.
2
Portal
made
2
me laugh a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one it was so funny, and it's so much fun. It's a very easy game.
I love Legos, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, the great thing about it is the fact that since they were not tied to a license, they were able to do so much more with it. Create their own somewhat cliche kind of story, but it wasn't like, because of all the humor, it didn't feel like it was completely cliche.
Right.
And they had
good voice acting from what it seemed to.
Excellent voice acting, and just the delivery of the jokes. And it was, super clean, of course.
That's cool.
It's basically Lego Grand Theft Auto.
That's how I've heard it described, actually.
What I love about it, though, what really makes me actually think I like it better than Grand Theft Auto 4 is really just the fact that it's more fun, I think. It's not so serious that it takes away from the fun aspect. And while, the amount of different options of things you have to do is about the same, it feels more rewarding to explore the environments freely because there's just so many things to discover. Whereas GTA, as great of a game as it is, it feels kind of like, it's just a gigantic city with, bits and pieces here and there, but it just didn't feel quite as rewarding. And I'm still working on it. I want to get 100% on the game, which is something that I don't normally do on open world games because
it takes so long.
Yeah,
or
it takes so
whatever,
long, but this one's just so much fun that I
That's
think
cool.
I'm going to keep doing it because I like just exploring the nooks and crannies and finding all the mega blocks and things like that for building structures and
Right.
whatnot.
Well, yeah, and the little bit that I got to see, it looked really sweet. So, definitely.
Yeah, I actually finished LA Noire.
Oh, nice.
I decided that since I had just gotten Lego City Undercover and I wanted to try to actually finish some of the games that I had, and I just realized, LA Noire, I was pretty close to being done with it, so I went ahead and just powered through it over a couple of days, and I liked it.
Awesome.
I mean, it was... I still have to say Red Dead is my favorite of the Rockstar games I've played so far, but I did really like LA Noire. I thought that it was fantastically made, and while there are certainly things that could have been improved about it, for the most part, it was just a really good game, and
Cool.
I do recommend it for mature audiences. That is, those who are 17 or older and can actually buy the game in the store themselves. But I played it on PC, obviously, and apart from a couple of frame rate issues here and there, which usually was fixed by a simple restart, it was
Pretty
very
sweet.
good.
Very cool.
And, I mean, apart from that, I haven't really been playing anything. I pretty much only played that over the past week and a half, and then, TV shows, since basically everything ended for the season. In fact, Psych is the only one that still has to end, and that's ending this week.
Oh, is it this week? Okay,
Yeah,
I think I'm a couple episodes behind.
Yeah. But apart from Psych, which is ending this week, everything else is over, so obviously there was Arrested Development, which we watched yesterday.
Yep, watch that.
But yeah, that's pretty much it as far as
And that kind of catches us back up then.
Yeah, I think so. So let's go ahead and get into news.
Awesome.
Now, since obviously the Xbox One event happened last week, we will get to that, but
Yes.
we're going to briefly go over some of the things that we didn't get to cover yet because of the long break in between. So the first thing that I want to talk about here is, how I told you about Bethesda teasing a new game.
Yes, and we talked briefly about that last time, I think.
I don't know if you've heard what it is, but they revealed the next day that it's Wolfenstein: The New Order.
Oh, yeah, I think I did hear about that.
And the reason why they had used the hashtag 1960 when they were teasing with images is because the game takes place during the 1960s in an alternate history where the Nazis won World War II.
Oh, very cool. An alternate history game.
Yeah, so
that could be
I'm
interesting.
very interested.
That could be very interesting.
I think that's one I will be very interested in. And I had forgotten that some other company, I can't remember who it was, had done a Wolfenstein game several years ago.
A newer one, huh?
Yeah, but this is, kind of...
Interesting.
This is Bethesda's reboot of sorts. I guess it's not really a reboot, but anyway, either way, it looks like it's going to be pretty sweet. For the little bit that I've seen, and I'm looking forward to it.
Heck yeah, definitely be worth something looking into. And and there are some of the other games that definitely had some good winning formulas. I still really like Dishonored. So it would be cool to see how they do this type of one.
Yeah. Let's see here. Well, one thing, a couple things they released trailers for The World's End, Ender's Game. I did get to see the trailer for the first trailer for World's End. I guess they've already done a second one. Have you had a chance to watch
I
it?
haven't watched them just because I've been so busy.
Okay.
I saw that it was released, but I didn't ever get around to it.
Yeah, we'll have to check those out a little bit later. But yeah, the World's End looks like it's going to be pretty awesome. Ender's Game looks pretty cool too. But
yeah, that
one I'm less excited about, mostly just because I never read the book.
See, I am more excited about Ender's Game. And again, I haven't unfortunately seen that trailer yet either. Is it an official trailer, or was it like the teaser trailer?
Well, no, they did a teaser trailer, and then they did a regular trailer of some kind.
Okay.
Like last week.
Okay, yeah, I've been kind of off the net for some of that news just because of schedules and whatnot, but I am very excited for that one. I hope they do the book justice because it was very good.
Okay, the last thing on my list before we get to Xbox One is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. has been officially confirmed to be starting this fall.
I had heard about that.
I saw the brief trailer that they did.
I think I saw part of it on a TV or something like that.
Yeah, once upon a time they had a trailer during the season finale a couple weeks ago. And apart from that, I haven't seen much. But either way, it's going to be pretty cool.
Might be worth checking out for sure. See how it is.
Joss Whedon.
Yeah, he usually is a winner there for sure.
So,
yeah. Do you know when they plan on airing? Or is that still up in the air?
I can't remember if they gave an official date, but it is. I'm pretty sure it's going to be like August or September.
Right. Well, and that's kind of when all the other shows seem to start up again. So I wouldn't be surprised if that is. Very cool.
Okay, so
what you've been waiting for?
The Xbox One.
Yeah. I did not get to watch the premiere or opener or whatever the heck you want to call it of the magical little box. But was doing some reading about it, and I don't know. I gotta say I'm underwhelmed.
Yeah.
One thing that I did think was interesting, and we'll just go right to this real quick. Tech spec type stuff. I don't know specifics really about what exact hardware they're using, and I don't really know if they've released it yet. Same with PlayStation, but I thought it was funny that both PlayStation and the Xbox are having AMD chipsets for pretty much everything. I mean, it's an AMD processor and then an AMD card. And I think a lot of that's actually integrated onto the processor. I just thought that was interesting that they're both going that direction. So I'll be curious to see power-wise how they stack up. But I don't know, the rest of what I was reading about the Xbox did not sound very... I wouldn't buy one. Not at all.
It looks like a VCR.
And that's what they said they were going for, really. It sounded like they were going more for something that would blend into the living room and do everything else, and they really didn't focus on the gaming aspect that much. I mean, okay, sure, it's cool if my Xbox can do DVR stuff, but they said it wouldn't actually record. You'd still need a DVR for that. I was like, okay, well, what's the point of this?
Yeah.
And the other thing I was reading that really made me not want one at all is, have you heard about what they're doing for the games?
Oh, yeah. We'll get into that.
Okay, I'll wait on that one then.
I want to kind of go off a checklist a little bit.
Sure. Okay, I won't go ranting on that just yet.
Okay. Well,
I don't know. I'm not impressed.
Yeah. I pretty much have to say that it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah,
but
I mean, maybe the fanboys out there are, but no.
Well, even most of the people who are hardcore Xbox owners are not pleased.
Right.
I mean, maybe something will change with E3. I mean, hopefully they'll show more games, but as of right now, there aren't a whole lot of people who seem to be very excited about it.
Yeah. I mean, this gen consoles, and I'm talking 360 and PS3. I'm personally a PS3 guy, as I know you are. But, if with these next gen consoles, if Xbox was better, I would have picked that over,
Yeah.
I'm not fanboy either or. Mm-hmm. I would willingly switch brands just for something different if it was the superior console, but I'm not seeing that right now.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much the way I was looking at it is, I mean, I like my PS3 a lot. I've been a Sony supporter since PS1, but
right.
But I also haven't gotten a ton of use out of it apart from like Netflix and Blu-rays and things like that. And it's just been because of the fact that, I mean, I only just got my PS3 a couple years ago for $100, which was, a great
awesome deal. And,
yeah. I got the few games that I really wanted to play, and then since then it's just kind of been, going around trying to decide what games I want, and a lot of times I end up just going PC instead of PS3 because it's portable that way.
Right.
But anyway, getting into more of the specifics about the new Xbox. First of all, the name. I want to hear your thoughts on the name.
I think they ran out of ideas or something. I don't know. All this rumor about the 720, I thought that sounded cool. The Xbox One? What did we do? Go back to the original suddenly? You know? I mean, like Xbox One was the first Xbox. And then we got the 360. You know? What's going on?
A couple things with that. I mean, first of all, apparently the reason they're calling it the Xbox One is because it's supposed to be your one source for all of your entertainment needs.
Yeah, but even that's not true, because you still need, if you want to record TV shows, you still need a DVR.
Yeah, I mean, it's stupid, and I think it's just as stupid as the naming, and then Nintendo naming their new console Wii U.
Well, yeah.
And I love the console, but I still think the name was stupid. I think Xbox One is more stupid, though.
Yeah, and they're both pretty bad.
A couple things about that. I mean, first of all, there were a number of different possible names floating around, which sounded infinitely better.
Right.
One of them actually was called Infinity.
Which sounds pretty sweet.
And people thought, that's not... I mean, they said that... Back up. IGN was saying that Infinity was reportedly the name of the new Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this was before the event.
Oh, sure. Well, the rumor wheel's been going for quite a while.
Yeah, and I thought Infinity sounded like a pretty cool name.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, good for you guys. That's a cool name. That actually is neat. And, the other names, one of them was Loop, which would basically just be, the infinity symbol, I'm guessing, is what they were.
Okay, gotcha.
Referring to Fusion was one possible name.
Fusion's pretty cool.
I thought that was a cool name, too.
Yeah.
And, the other one was just Xbox 8, which I think would have kind of fit with...
The Windows 8.
Yeah, that and or... being along the same lines as them naming their second Xbox, the 360, going double what the PS4 is.
Exactly.
But, nope, they called it Xbox One. And I'm just going to call it Xbox Juan.
Juan.
As in Juan.
Juan.
Xbox Juan. And a couple other funny things about that is that apparently, internally in Microsoft, they've been referring to the original Xbox for years as Xbox One.
Well, everybody has.
Exactly.
Everybody has.
But, I mean, it's even funnier, the fact that it's happening in Microsoft.
Yeah.
And now, the Xbox One? No, the Xbox One. Oh. Huh? I mean,
that's basically what's going to happen.
What's going to happen. And, on top of that, I guess Microsoft stupidly never secured the website xbox1.com. And so there is a site that already exists by that, and Microsoft is, I guess, trying to acquire it in some way or another. But I just think it's hilarious because, everybody refers to the original Xbox as the Xbox One.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think it was just such a stupid choice for a name. I mean, as dumb as Wii U is, as far as a name goes, Xbox One is even more dumb because it's just going to create even more confusion.
Yeah,
I mean,
it definitely doesn't make your product stand out at all.
Of course, I guess I have to say, though, that it does, at least the one thing that it has going for it that the Wii U did not, as far as separating itself from previous versions, is the fact that it does look significantly different from the last.
That's true. The Wii U, not too different looking on the outside.
And of course, they kind of created confusion by, showing the fact that you could still use your Wii remotes and make it just seem like the gamepad is nothing more than an add-on, which it's not. And yeah, Nintendo made some mistakes with that, but I think that the general consensus has been that Microsoft made even bigger mistakes with its presentation. And before we get into some of the things about their presentation beyond that, I do want to say the new controller is fantastic.
Okay. It did look very nice.
Yeah, I think that, I really like the 360 controller. And I think that the Xbox One controller is better because basically they improved the major thing that was a problem with the 360 controller, not the D-pad.
Yes.
That's just such a huge thing. I mean, I don't know about all of the other things, like especially the way that they're getting rid of the rumble feature and kind of having different kinds of feedback. And I mean, I'm sure it's going to work great.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think that the overall design is pretty. I think it looks really nice.
It looks nice. Obviously, the true test is once you actually get a copy, you get to hold it in your hand and see how it fits.
Yeah.
That's obviously the main thing.
I think it's going to be just as comfortable as a 360 controller.
The thing I think that's interesting is they were talking about having what Sony's had in the PS3 for quite some time is that pressure-sensitive triggers, which, like I said, Sony's had for quite a bit and really hasn't used it much.
Yeah.
And so I thought it's interesting that they added that in. Hopefully they'll put it to use, because I think that would be kind of a cool feature.
Yeah.
Even like if you're in a driving situation, just have the gas pedal that you could feather it.
Oh yeah,
definitely cool.
Well, that's something that, at least like in the Rockstar games, that those controllers have both used.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Nintendo stopped doing the analog triggers, even though they were the ones who started them in the first place.
Right.
With the GameCube. And it was really just because there weren't enough games that made use of it.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Not many developers really use that feature.
I mean, it's great for driving, and I mean, in the Rockstar games especially, it works really well. I mean, it gives the driving a bit more, realistic physics and that sort of thing.
Right. Well, that's just why I thought it was interesting that they advertised that as one of the key features. Or part of the key feature of this new controller was that aspect. And I was like, well, not many other developers have used it, so maybe this is a change in that. I'm not sure.
Okay, so obviously we talked about the name of the controller. The next thing is in regards to the presentation that Microsoft gave for it. It was very media-centered.
No, I can't comment on that because I didn't
watch the whole thing. I watched bits and pieces,
okay.
But basically, from everything that I've read about it, as well as the little bit that I've seen, it was a very media-centered presentation. Basically, just trying to, showing how it can use Kinect, which we'll get more into a little bit later.
Kinect 2?
Yeah, the new version of Kinect to work. You use voice commands to do various things, and it was mostly just integration with the TV and satellite and things like that.
Good, now people can yell at their TV and it will listen.
Stats and I guess they've improved the technology on Kinect, and I think that's all well and good, but I just can't think of how many people are really going to want to use voice commands for everything.
Yeah, my phone's been able to do voice commands for a very long time, and I've never taken advantage of that.
Yeah, the major thing is it's just kind of, it's awkward. That's really what it comes down to, at least as far as I'm concerned. It's just awkward, I remember the one time that when I played Phantom Hourglass on DS, the Zelda game, there was one point where I had to yell into the microphone. And it was funny, having to do that, but it was also at an awkward time because it was late at night and my parents were asleep. So at the time I was, still at home with them. And,
right.
It was just crazy. And I think that voice commands are fine if you feel like you're talking, especially if you're a talkative person.
Well, where I see them the most useful would be hands-free driving. Okay, a lot of newer cars have those options where you can tell it commands to do different things. Yeah. That's really nice. Actually, my phone has a driving option, and then it will do the same type of thing. Mm-hmm. Very useful. I haven't used it really much, but I could see that being nice.
Yeah.
But when I'm in my living room already holding a controller, I don't really feel like telling it what to do.
Exactly.
Open, blah, blah, blah. It's like, who cares?
Yeah. Xbox on. Xbox satellite. Xbox football. It's just...
I can just see a lot of people being like, should we turn the Xbox on? Bloop! Oh, there it is.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much you can't use those words anytime.
Yeah, I'm gonna, I would disable that right away, almost.
Yeah. Some of that, especially the demos they were showing, it just seemed kind of... ridiculous.
Oh, and speaking of ridiculous, can I comment? I was reading an article about it, and they said the Red Ring of Death fix, which has plagued 360s unfortunately for quite some time, it isn't going to happen anymore on the Xbox One because there's no red ring on the front anymore. I started busting up.
Please tell me that wasn't something that Microsoft actually said.
I don't know. It was in an article advertised as one of the Xbox features, and I had to laugh quite a bit because apparently the new Xbox One is going to be, if there's an error, it has an on-screen display, I guess more detailed, where, the old Xbox it just had the color scheme and different segments of the red ring would tell you what was wrong with it. But then, basically the gist of it is that there's no more red ring. So you don't have that problem anymore. You just have the red ring of death internally now.
Goodness.
I laughed so hard. I'm not sure if Microsoft said that. If they did, I will laugh even harder.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty funny.
Yeah, I really hope that it doesn't. They don't have as much of a failure rate as they did with the 360s, because that was just bad. I mean...
Well, and actually, I have taken them apart, because my buddy had two Xbox 360s that happened to, and we ripped it down completely, and we did the quote-unquote fix, bought the parts offline, reinstalled it, and it still failed. And it came down to just a stupid design flaw. There's two sets of fans, and there's like a little plastic sleeve that fits over to where the heat sinks are for the processor and the graphics processor, which are side by side. The processor had a really good high heat sink, and it was in direct line to the fan, so the air could wick off that heat. It was perfect. The graphics processor, which is doing most of your heavy lifting in the games, had the tiniest heatsink I've ever seen, and it had a DVD drive directly over top of it. So it's suffocating, and the fan was offset, so it wasn't even direct lined to be cooled. So that was the problem. It would overheat, and they used a cheap solder, which would melt, and then your connections were broken. So that's why a lot of people had temporary fixes. They would overheat their Xboxes on purpose by like wrapping them in towels or things like that. Yeah. It would temporarily remelt the solder together.
Huh.
So
that's what that was about.
Yeah, that's how that towel trick, and there's a bunch of other tricks. I mean, we researched this forever, and my buddies Frankenbox, because we eventually ended up just leaving the cover off and putting the DVD drive off to the side, and it worked. But we had to do the fix like 8 times, and I said, dude, you just don't buy another one, because it was not worth it at all.
So sad.
But according to Microsoft, if we just remove the red ring, then we don't have the problem anymore, right?
Oh goodness.
Anyhow, yeah, it was an unfortunate design flaw, which is really sad, and hopefully they fix that in the new one. Apparently the Slim's better. I have not taken a Slim apart.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely wasn't impressive when we finally took one apart.
Yeah. I guess the next thing on the list here would be talking about the games that they have. They've said that they are going to have 15 exclusives for the Juan within the first year.
Remember, that's spelled with a J because it's Spanish.
Yes. And, of course, they've only really kind of demoed one or two. I can't really remember the names of the games.
Mm-hmm.
There's one that was kind of interesting, but really there wasn't anything all that exciting. Basically, everything they demoed was pre-rendered cutscenes. They didn't actually show any gameplay.
See, and I like, some developers seem to be really going the route of having a lot of in-game footage, which I like. Or some trailers are made just with in-game footage, and I really like that, because then you can say, oh, this is what it can do.
Exactly.
And pre-rendered stuff doesn't really show you anything.
Exactly. It doesn't show you jack squat.
Yeah, not really.
Because, I mean, you can do... They've done pretty impressive pre-rendered footage on the DS.
Right.
I mean, when they remade Final Fantasy IV, they had, a good intro cutscene that was gorgeous. I mean, it looked like something that you might see on at least a PS2,
mm-hmm.
and if not better.
Good for a DS.
A DS is the equivalent of a Nintendo 64.
Right.
That.
Right.
And it's just it doesn't show anything, and that was something that Sony really did better than Microsoft in their presentation, is they showed actual graphics.
Mm-hmm.
Actual gameplay graphics, whereas Microsoft just really didn't do that, and the little
Well,
bit of stuff they showed.
it seems like they both approached it from two different directions. Sony seemed to say it doesn't matter what the box looks like, but here's what it can do, and here's the games. It sounds like Microsoft really went for more of the, well, here's everything it can do, and didn't focus on the games as much, which for even not necessarily a hardcore, but even just like a medium gamer, well, the games are what's important. Who cares if I can watch TV through it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing is, like, with the Wii U has basically all the same features minus the voice commands that the Juan was showing.
Right.
And the Wii U, I mean, it still is primarily focused on the games. Yes, it's true there aren't a ton of games for it right now, but personally, there's more than enough for me right now. I mean, there's more games than I can even purchase. And Lego City Undercover right now is so much fun that I'm going to be playing that for a while I'm working on collecting everything. I know not everybody likes to do that, but I'm enjoying exploring the city and using the different abilities that I get from the different disguises to access different areas.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, the Wii U does all those things, and they're neat enough features, but they're not the primary focus.
Yeah, and it just feels like Microsoft tried to make that more the primary focus.
Yeah.
And, if I get a gaming system, I don't just want it to blend into the living room and be another one of those things.
Exactly.
You bought it for a gaming system.
Yeah.
So.
And, that going into that a little bit further, I mean, one of the things that I found is that what impressed me the least about the presentation for the Juan is the simple fact that all of the features they were showing, the Wii U does every one of those things, with the exception of the voice commands.
Which made me laugh, actually, quite a bit.
I mean, it's just, like, the Wii U does it better. You don't have to purchase anything extra.
Yeah.
And, I mean, personally, like, I think that the touchscreen on the gamepad is fantastic. I mean, I've never had a tablet, and it's not something that I would ever replace with anything else.
Right.
And, I mean, I get it that they're counting on that a lot of people probably have these tablets so they can take advantage of the smart glass feature and, do this kind of stuff, but you still can't play games on it.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I could tell, it doesn't really seem like it really does much of anything for the games. Like, you can't really display extra information like maps, which for me, can be a big deal especially when you're exploring, trying to find all the little things in the nooks and crannies.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was underwhelming. And of course, the fact that they didn't have much in the way of games, and the games that they had were basically Call of Duty and a couple other shooters, I think. Oh, Call of Duty and sports games. That was about it. And it's just like...
some have speculated maybe they're saving it for E3.
Yeah.
Which could be, but that kind of shoots yourself in the foot because, you don't want to spoil it too quickly, but at the same time, when you're, premiering and presenting a new product, you kind of want to show it off at the best it can be. So, maybe after E3, we'll see if it goes better, but I'm not too hopeful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping for Xbox fans that they do show a bunch of great games.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because it's just, they need to give people a reason to buy the system.
Oh, yeah. Well, just from the different comments that I've seen, it seems like a lot of people are agreeing with a lot of the things we're saying, and just doesn't really look... It wasn't what they were hoping for.
Exactly.
And even more the hardcore Xbox guys. Like I said, I don't really care. If the Xbox would have been a better system, would have gone that route, but doesn't look like it.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately for me, it's going to be, I'm going to stick with Nintendo, I'm going to stick with PC. Somewhere down the line, I will probably end up buying a PS4.
Yeah.
Mostly just because of some of the exclusives.
Right.
But even that is not something I'm going to rush out to get, because there's still so many PS3 games I haven't played.
Oh, of course.
And, I mean, even just the few exclusives that there are, or games that I can't get on PC, well, that gives me incentive to stick with them. Plus, the PS3 has a Blu-ray player, which right now that's the only thing I have in the living room apart from my laptop that plays Blu-rays. So I like using it. And the Netflix and Amazon Instant Video apps on there are better than the ones on Wii U because the ones on Wii U were just poorly designed.
Mm-hmm. That's
they were
unfortunate.
not optimized for the operating system and the gamepad and everything else, and so they're just kind of slow and...
Oh, speaking of operating system, that was another thing that I thought was interesting about the Xbox One that I had read. Apparently, it's going to have almost 3 operating systems on it. It's going to have a dubbed-down version of Windows 8 so that it can run Windows 8 apps natively. It is going to have an Xbox type of OS that will run the games, and then it has another OS that will kind of bridge the Windows 8 version and the Xbox version.
Okay.
And how that plays out, I'm not sure, but I thought that was definitely interesting. Hopefully it doesn't make it difficult for developers.
Yeah.
Because to me, just reading that, I was like, that sounds confusing.
Yeah, and one thing that I'm not entirely clear about is I know that EA has been pushing consoles to include some form of Origin on their system in order to make it so that, well, just because they want to have Origin on the system.
I really hope not. I hate Origin. I have it on my PC, and Steam is so much better.
Yeah,
Origin is clunky, and and then like for Battlefield 3. You need Origin in order to have the game, because you download it through Origin. Yeah. So you have to launch Origin, then you launch Battlefield 3, which launches your web browser, and that is the server browser for the game. And then suddenly you don't need Origin. I hate how they have it set up.
Believe me, it was such a headache getting Mass Effect 3 installed on my PC.
I mean,
it was the biggest pain in the butt I've ever dealt with.
Yeah, and every time I've used Steam, easy.
Yeah, super easy.
I've had a couple complaints about Steam, but overall it seems to be a very good process. I mean, let's just put it this way. Okay, I've been wanting to play Tomb Raider for quite some time now, but I'm being cheap, and I'm going to try to wait till it comes on sale. I went to go play Battlefield 3 a couple weeks ago, and they had, I think it was almost half off for Tomb Raider on Origin. I did not buy it because it was Origin. I hate it. So that's saying something, okay? I was like, oh, that's a good deal. I should get it. Nope, Origin. Never mind. I'm good.
Well, going off on I'm going to try to make this a brief tangent here.
Okay. Well, we're already on a tangent.
Regarding Origin, I guess, EA, of course, wanted to get also Nintendo to put some form of Origin on their system, and they refused to do it.
Interesting.
Therefore, EA refuses to put the majority of their franchises on the Wii U now.
Wow.
But it kind of goes further than that. There's one of the lead software designers or engineers or something like that came out and said that on Twitter that the Wii U is crap. And, just saying all this stuff about the Wii U being garbage and, it can't run anything. And it's, besides the fact, true, it's not nearly as powerful as the PS4 and the 720 or, the Juan.
Juan, not 720, because 720 would be cool.
Yes, the Juan.
Is not cool.
And I apologize if there's any of you who are named Juan. We're not making fun of you, we're just making fun of the Xbox, because actually, I think the Juan sounds like a cooler name than the One.
Yeah, Xbox One. I wish it was named Xbox One.
Yeah, I would be more happy with that.
I kind of give them a high five just for doing it.
Yeah.
But One, no high five.
But anyway, going back to that.
Microsoft, you don't get a high five.
So, they basically have tried to say that the Wii U is not going to have any games from EA.
Well,
and that's what they were saying for a little bit, and then not long after that, they went back on their comments and said that no, there actually are games being developed for the Wii U.
May I just say that EA goes back on their comments a lot?
Yeah.
And they were voted the worst company for a reason. Even though I do like a bunch of their games, and some of them are my favorites, anyhow. Back to the Xbox One.
Okay, so
let's keep the rant session just to Microsoft today.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay.
Alright, well, apparently Microsoft is trying to be very, very greedy and keep its claws on our games.
Oh, that's right.
And so much so that I think the used game market's going to die, basically. Because the way that they introduced it was, if I buy a game, it is registered to my Xbox One, assuming I own one, and like a serial number for a piece of software that you would buy. If I bring it over to your house, and I'm logged into my account, we can play it. But if I left the game to let you borrow it, you would need to buy a serial number in order to play it, basically.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't call them serial numbers, but I'm saying it that way just because it's easier to understand.
Yeah.
And so much so, then, like, if I sold that game, that serial number would have to be deactivated, so that they, basically, Microsoft wants to know what's going on with the games, where they are. It sounds like a DRM nightmare.
Yeah.
It's not your game. We're already paying $60, and who knows what next-gen consoles prices are going to be. I mean, they used to be $50, now it's $60. And then until you get DLC, you're spending over $100 on a game, and now suddenly you can't even let your buddy borrow it to see if he likes it. That's a bunch of crap.
Yeah.
The other thing that really made me, and like that part, I was like, okay, I could deal with that possibly, even though I wouldn't like it. I could possibly deal with that. The other part that I did not like is they said every 24 hours, the Xbox needs to go online to verify and make sure that the games that you have installed to your system, because every game that you buy will be instantly installed to the hard drive. They said to make it more streamlined, which makes sense. That's fine.
That's a good thing.
No problems there. But it would have to double check with an Xbox server, or a Microsoft server rather, to make sure that you were still authorized to use that game. Okay, I don't know about our listeners, but sometimes the internet up here is flaky, or sometimes you're at a place where you don't have internet and you just want to play a game. And what if suddenly I can't get on for a day and now you can't play games anymore? That is stupid. And what happened to their comment earlier? Oh, you won't have to be connected to the internet all the time. Well, yes, you will.
Yeah, it's basically you'll be able to play things for a limited period of time, and then if you don't connect to the internet once every 24 hours, then you're screwed.
Yeah, and for most homes that may not matter, but that is a deal breaker to me.
Yeah, I mean,
because
there's always the possibility that we're not completely understanding it, and listeners, if you know something that we're not clear on, feel free to write in. Now,
I did make sure to look up a couple different articles to make sure that I was talking about this right, and it seems to be the overall opinion is that that's how this is going to work, and that is a major deal breaker to me. Now, this doesn't necessarily put Sony in the shining light because they haven't announced what they're doing or if they're doing that.
Yeah.
They could follow suit. So that doesn't make Sony suddenly the good guy. But man, if Sony wants to win some people over, they need to not do this.
Pretty much.
Because that would suddenly put them in the shining light, so to speak.
Yeah.
I'm
just wondering what's going to happen here. I mean, personally, I would be happy if I just stuck to the consoles I have now and my PC.
Right.
I would be fine with that. However, I have to say that, I really hope that, at least for Sony's sake, they're smart enough to not follow Microsoft in this stupid move.
Oh, yeah.
And actually allow people to still play used games, because...
Well, they will allow you to play used games. You'll just have to pay an activation fee.
Well, that's what I mean, though, is playing them without having to pay something extra. Because basically then it's like, oh, hey, I got this game, cheaper, but then I have to pay this activation fee, so basically I might as well just bought it new.
Well, and the other thing, too, is basically, if we'll use GameStop, for example, GameStop would have to integrate their servers with a Microsoft server, so that when the game was returned, it would be registered that the game was returned, or given to them, and so to take it off your account, basically. Mm-hmm. And then vice versa. But that also means that they were saying that Microsoft would get a cut of the price and the publisher would get a cut of the price. So that means now, like GameStop and any other used game dealer now is losing even more money on the used game because they have to give a chunk back to Microsoft and the publisher, who already got a chunk when we first purchased it. And so basically what you're going to see, from what I can imagine, is used game prices are going to go through the roof, basically the same as new, and I think, for Xbox at least, the used game market is going to die. I mean, Microsoft said that it won't, but I can't see it thriving in that situation.
Well, I mean, ultimately what I think is going to happen is that if both Sony and Microsoft do this, if Microsoft and Sony, since we know Microsoft is doing this B thing,
yes.
If Sony does it too, is going to severely hurt used game sales. It's basically going to make it practically non-existent for those consoles.
Which is unfortunate.
However, what will happen is that probably, on top of the fact that you'll still have used game sales for earlier consoles, you'll probably also end up getting more people actually deciding that maybe they're going to try out Nintendo.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that's a little bit too optimistic.
I don't know.
Hope. But one thing that did happen right after the conference, in fact, well, at least a day or two after the Xbox One conference, the sales of the Nintendo Wii U in the UK went up 875%.
Wow, now that's awesome. That's ridiculous.
Now, whether or not that'll happen in the US, I kind of doubt it. I mean, it hasn't happened yet. I don't think it's going to happen that quickly.
Right.
Mostly just because of the fact that there are way too many people here who are convinced that the Wii U is a child's toy or something else stupid like
Still,
that.
though, 800%, that's saying something.
I mean, yeah, it was just dramatic increase in sales. They did have a little bit of a price drop, which helped, but even still, I mean, that's a huge increase.
Yeah, definitely. Interesting. Let's just put it this way. That goes to tell you, that should be a message to Microsoft, hey, you didn't do something right. Because people were holding out for your system, and then they bought something else. I don't know. I just think that it's, even from the other end of this, trying to look from the other end of the our perspective, and, being, if you were a developer, I can understand serial numbers, I can understand, copy protection, because piracy is rampant.
Yeah.
Especially on PC. I mean, if you want to look hard enough, not that you should, but if you want to look hard enough, you can find any software that's cracked. I prefer to buy my games because I want to give credit to people who put the time into it, and other than, the moral implications too.
Yeah.
But all that aside, I can understand a serial number, I can understand copy protection, but this other move from Microsoft is just greed. That's all there is to it. It's not, hey, we want to make sure the developer and us get paid for that. No, it's just pure greed, because I can't even let my buddy borrow a game now without having to pay for it. And then after, like, if I loaned you a game, you'd have to pay. And then if I wanted it back, I'd have to pay. Yeah. Again, to redeem the game I already own. That's stupid. Yeah. I borrow games all the time because you're like, oh, you have it? Can I see if it's any good? Or there's certain games, like Assassin's Creed being one of them. Mm-hmm. My buddy, he didn't see much replay value. He said, oh, just borrow it for a while. So I've been able to play that because, he's like, oh, I beat it, probably won't ever play it again. That's awesome. Yeah. But it's great because they just want that new game sale for everything. And that's unfortunate. Yeah.
I mean, the only way I could see this working in their favor at all is if they started doing something like Steam, where they have sales all the time. Yeah. Because, that's something that has made Steam incredibly successful, is the fact that they always have these huge sales.
Well, hence I just got all the Unreals for $10. Yeah. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's incredible, the kind of sales they have. And, I mean, I think the vast majority of the games that I bought have been when they were on sale for, 75% off.
Yeah, I got whatever. Batman Arkham Asylum for $5 and Batman Arkham City for $7.50. Yeah. That is awesome. Yeah. So, all that to say, I don't know, I'm not impressed with this. I was starting to do some reading on the Xbox One, and I was like, okay, it sounds all right, but I'm not impressed. And then the more I read, the more disappointed I was. Especially when this copy protection, whatever crap they want to call it is. You can put whatever spin on it you want from a public relations standpoint. It's not good for us as the consumer. Not at all.
Okay, well, two more things with the Xbox One before we move into listener mail, which we actually have some.
Oh, man, we have a listener.
Yeah. Yes, we have at least one.
Yes.
Well, the next thing was talking about the fact that it doesn't play 360 games.
Yes.
Which...
Not too surprised there.
It's not entirely surprising, but there are pluses and minuses to that. I think that, obviously, the one thing is that there's not going to be a whole lot of people who are really going to want to play previous gen games on their console.
Yeah, and
for a while,
right?
But at the same time, it's also something that both Sony and Microsoft are doing that's not exactly the smartest business move, because of the fact that it's not going to convince it's going to make more people think, well, I'm not going to get rid of my 360 or my PS3 because there's all these great games still coming out for these consoles, and yeah, I could get a prettier, newer console, but then I won't be able to play any of my old games. I won't be able to get any of my stuff from there.
Right.
And so it's just kind of...
make people maybe hold off a little longer.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I think is really going to hurt both of them.
Yeah, another thing, and I think this is the same with the PlayStation 4 and with the Xbox, is that like even stuff that you buy in like the PSN store or live, you will not be able to play on the newer consoles.
Exactly, yeah.
Even like what is it? Wii calls it Virtual Console, whatever the heck they call it on the other systems. I can't remember.
Yeah.
The arcade or whatever it is.
Virtual. It is virtual.
Okay. Anyhow, you won't be able to do that. I don't know. That's kind of sucky.
Yeah.
People will definitely be hanging on to their old consoles, or at least they should. I would for sure.
Yeah, well, that's one advantage that the Wii U has over the other two consoles, is that you can play any of your old games.
Yeah.
Obviously,
it is a strange
GameCube games, but maybe. I'm really hoping Nintendo does this. Nintendo will actually put GameCube games in Virtual Console. Now, of course, now that I have a GameCube again, I don't really care as much about getting Virtual Console versions.
Right.
But for those people who haven't experienced and like actually having the digital versions of the games, I think that would be awesome.
Yeah.
And it would definitely attract more buyers.
Yeah, and part of that current trend of not backwards compatibility, I can kind of understand, because they have completely changed the architecture. For the Xbox, and it could definitely, I'm almost positive with the hardware it's got, it could do total emulation of the original Xbox, so that shouldn't be a problem. They should just include that.
Yeah.
Where with, I know with the PS3, there for a while they had PS2 compatibility, but basically it had a PS2 inside of it.
Yeah.
Because it was a chip. So I can understand why they removed that. Again, PS4, I'm sure it's more than powerful enough to be able to emulate PS3, PS2, and PS1 games. Maybe I'm being optimistic with PS3, because emulation does take a lot of power.
Yeah.
But still, at least Sony has that streaming feature that they're working on. Microsoft is basically, from what I've read, said that's not really a reality at the moment. It's not possible for them apparently right now.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that it's not a huge deal. Personally, even if I get a PS4, I'm still going to keep my PS3 because I'm actually holding on to all of my consoles.
Right.
But
yeah, you got a good collection going.
Yeah. But I definitely can see how for some people it could potentially be a deal breaker. So,
yeah, I'm not a fan.
Okay, well, the last thing with the Juan is Kinect, the new version.
Yes,
of Kinect.
Kinect's 2.
So there are. Obviously, the technology has improved to where it can now recognize people who are closer to it, whereas before you had to be, quite a bit further back in order for it to actually recognize it.
It sounds like it has a much more detailed sensor in it, or camera, whichever you want to call it. I was even reading so much so that it can detect, just if you turn your wrist, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, and they were showing that in the demo, which, that is very impressive.
Just the things it can do. I think it's cool what people have taken with the original Kinects, and they've done stuff that Microsoft never intended for it to do. Some of the hacks and stuff like that. I've seen some pretty interesting ones there. So it'd be cool to see when users get the Kinect 2 in their hands, what they'll do with it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things though is whether or not you've heard this, that the new Kinect is going to require that it's connected to the console at all times. The console will not work without it.
Which is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. And the thing is that
It's Microsoft's all-seeing eye.
Exactly. It's constantly monitoring people in the room. So basically, you lose a ton of privacy. In fact, I mean, to some degree, you could even say you might lose all privacy, but, who knows what it could be used for. For all we know, it could end up being a you are being watched situation.
Do.
Well, no, I was thinking more along the lines of person of interest.
Oh, okay, well, that's true. Yeah. I was thinking old school.
Them listening to your conversations and basically detecting terrorists.
Now you're just a conspiracy theorist. And I know a couple of them. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like I really believe that. But I know. I wouldn't be all that comfortable with it, and I mean...
It is kind of weird that you don't even have the option to unplug it. I don't know, I mean...
We'll see how things go with
my webcam watches me all the time, so whatever. But I do know what you're saying. For some people, that could definitely be a deal breaker. I think the other things we listed are more of a deal breaker for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've actually seriously thought about the potential of collecting Xbox consoles as well.
Yeah.
Even though before I was pretty much completely against it, but it's just kind of fun to collect.
I used to really like the Xbox. Well, I don't mind the original Xbox. Not the one anymore, because that's the new one for some other reason.
No, remember, the new one is the one.
Oh, excuse me. Okay. So the original Xbox. Original. I like that one. I had some good times on that. And I even really liked the 360 until I realized how poorly designed they were. That's actually what pushed me at PS3. I didn't like PS3 at all, because I had never really used one. And then I saw how poorly designed the Xbox 360 was, and that's what made me decide to go with the PS3. Interesting how that works.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I was going with that.
Yeah. Well, I think we've talked enough
Tangents.
about the Juan.
Yeah, I'm done.
In summary, we both pretty much said that we don't really care for it. And it's not something we intend to buy.
I'm just disappointed. I think they could have done better. I had high hopes for it.
I'm hoping that they'll turn this around in some positive way for those who are fans. And
maybe it was a cool April Fool's joke in May or something.
Something like that.
Probably not. They're like, just kidding. The new Xbox is a floppy drive.
What was really funny was there's one podcast I listen to. I want to shout out to Married to the Games. Those guys are really funny, really clean podcast. All from about the same generation as us.
Awesome.
Anyway, they posted what was supposedly the console design for the PS4, and it was a picture of a Sony Betamax.
That's awesome. It could happen. We don't know. It could happen.
It was great. My VCR plays games.
Yes! My VCR takes Blu-rays?
I know Betamax is not the same thing as a VCR, but that's
I know. Well, we'll just pretend it is, though. For those who don't know what it is. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on into listener mail.
Yes.
Our very, very few listener mails that we have.
So please send us more.
Yes, send us more. Send us questions, comments.
Hate mail even. No, not really. But, well, maybe a little bit.
Not really, but still.
But still. What does our one listener have to say?
Well, we actually have had a few various comments and questions over the past few weeks, though there's really only
it's funnier if we just pretend that it's one listener. Well, I'm just messing. No, go ahead.
So the first one we got was from Dan Brewington, who is a former native to this area. Mm-hmm. He's now actually a game developer working on Destiny.
All right.
So, shout out to Dan.
Heck yeah.
He commented after our first podcast saying that he agreed with Ben that Mortal Kombat is the best movie to game adaptation.
Oh.
And
I still,
John, you had a thought about that you shared with me yesterday.
You know, I still don't know if I quite believe that, and I just watched Prince of Persia again not too long ago, and I might have to say that might be a little bit better than Mortal Kombat. But I'd have to play the Prince of Persia games again.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much...
Okay, if we're going for, like, accuracy from game to movie, that might be a difference. But if we're just talking movie quality in and of itself, Prince of Persia wins hands down.
Yes. I can agree with that.
And I'm going to go out on a limb here. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not Ben. I'm not going to go out on a limb.
We'll leave that for Ben.
Yeah.
He can keep going out on the limb.
I'm going to stay on the tree and not on the limb and say I like Prince of Persia better.
Okay, well, I can see your point. I would have to say that Prince of Persia, the movie wasn't bad.
I liked it.
Obviously, it was not accurate to the game, and I didn't even finish the game. I just played a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about the original, well, I should say the original Sands of Time.
Right. Which is what the movie's supposed to be based off of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, remember they remade Sands of Time.
Yes, I know they did.
But anyway, going back here.
Get off that limb, man.
Yeah. Come on. I would say that it's still weird having Jake Gyllenhaal play an Arabian man. And on top of that, the girl, the love interest.
Yeah.
I've seen her in a couple of things, one of which was Clash of the Titans, the remake, from a couple years ago. And I do not like her as an actress. I found her annoying. But maybe it was just because of the fact that I saw her in 2 or 3 movies, within a short period of time. And anyway, I'm not even going to get into that. So, Prince of Persia, whether or not it's a better movie than Mortal Kombat, listeners, why don't you tell us?
It is.
Do you think that Mortal Kombat is a better video game movie, or do you think Prince of Persia is better?
Like I said, it depends. Are we going from game to movie accuracy?
Let's just say in general.
Okay, in general.
In fact, I think we should discount the quality because obviously, in terms of the quality of filmmaking, there's no contest. Just because
it's obviously Mortal Kombat. I mean, Prince of Persia.
But anyway.
Yeah, let us know what you think, because this is a real heated debate right now.
Yeah.
We're getting serious.
Oh yes.
So other fan questions do we have here?
Well, Mrs. The Hug Guy sent us in 3 questions. Actually.
Ooh, 3 questions. Okay.
Just answer the 5 questions. 3 questions.
What is your name? What is your quest?
What is the
airspeed?
Average airspeed of an unladen swallow?
African or American?
European.
No, I always forget that one.
I don't know that. Okay, going back into the questions from our listener, Mrs. The Hug Guy. Okay, the first one is, what was the first game you ever played and at what age?
Oh, that's a tough one. Okay.
And I think we're just talking about video/computer games, I would guess. I'm
right. First, though, that makes me have to think now. Probably, let's see, my next door neighbor, he had outgrown his NES. And so, if I can remember correctly... Nope. We gotta go back even further. Okay. I don't remember the name of it suddenly. What's the one where the little aliens are coming from the top and you're the thing shooting on the bottom?
Depending on which version you look at, there's...
An old one.
Well, no, I mean, there's the one that was on PC, which was Galaxian.
Okay.
And then there was the one that was on Atari, which is Space Invaders.
We had a handheld version.
Oh.
Yes.
That
So...
It was probably Space Invaders.
I can't remember now. Dad had one from when he was a kid, and I remember playing that, and somehow it still worked. And so that was probably, if I can remember correctly, my first one that I ever played. And that was like, I don't know, it was probably like 5 or 6, or I can't even remember. But the one I was going to say would be our next door neighbor had given me an NES, and on there, the first game was like one of the G.I. Joe games and the Mario with the Duck Hunt. So I was going to say Mario, but actually I think it was that Space Invaders. So we're going old school on there.
Well, mine was actually basically the same thing.
Okay.
Mine was Galaxian on PC, which is basically the exact same game.
Yep.
It was on one of those really old computers that, I mean, of course, it didn't have a mouse. It used the really big floppy disks.
Yes, the real floppy disks.
Yes, that were probably 30 kilobytes or something like that. I don't know how much space.
That is so much space.
I can't remember how much they were. I mean, I remember that the original, that the floppy disks that came next before floppy disks died out were 1.4 megabytes. But I can't remember what it was. Anyway, it was one of those really old computers. The screen was black with orange yellow text.
Oh, okay.
I think green text was the Apple computers.
Could have been
only. But yeah, it was something that my dad had. I think it might have even been a Gateway or something. I can't remember. Actually, it was probably an IBM. Yeah, it was definitely an IBM.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, it was very, very old computer, and I played that game. It was called Galaxian. It was. I'm pretty sure that was my first one. If not, I mean, like, my very first console game was definitely Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
With Duck Hunt
Yep.
and Clay Shooter, and I could get through the first world of Super Mario Brothers more easily that first time I played than I can today.
Go figure, right?
That was when I was 4.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm 26 now.
It's kind of sad when that happens.
But since I do intend to actually beat the original Super Mario Brothers on the NES before I have kids, so that when I have kids, we can actually play it together, and I can, tell them where to go.
I'll let you in on a hint. Game Genie.
I'm not going to cheat. I'm going to beat it fair and square.
Okay,
like
right.
I almost did with the original Zelda before I first lost tons of dungeons and other data, and then lost everything.
That poor game is just like, you get so far, and then save corrupt. It's sad.
Yeah. So, I just need to replace the battery or whatever. But anyway. Next question.
Question 2.
What do you think is the worst game or game franchise ever made?
Ooh. I feel like this is a loaded question.
Just keep it narrowed down.
Okay.
I mean, just pick one game or one game franchise.
Game or game franchise.
And this is whether it's. I'm guessing that this is probably more referring to being just a bad game, but it could just be, in your personal opinion, games that you despise.
Oh, that I despise. I'm gonna make you go first.
Okay. Well, that is a tough one.
It is a tough one.
I mean, there are certainly games that I would say I don't like as much as other people like it, and I think they're overrated. But that's not the question. So,
no.
Worst game or game franchise. I guess I'm just gonna have to say it's gonna have to be a toss-up between Call of Duty.
I knew you were gonna say that.
And New Super Mario Brothers.
Oh, really?
And I only say that because the fact that there is so little change between each iteration.
Okay, fair enough.
That's the only reason why I'm going to say that. I'm not saying that the games are poorly made, because in both cases they are well made. But the problem is that they're just, it's so many of the same exact thing.
Same formula used again.
Yeah, and just very little change between them. That's the only real reason why I would have to say that.
I could see that.
And that's not to say, listeners, that I don't appreciate either one for what they are. I mean, Mario, I do like some of the Mario games. They're not my favorite, but it really what it comes down to is I just couldn't think of anything else. I had to think of games that now I kind of have a dislike for.
Well, that's fair enough. Well, and you gave good reasons behind both of them, so I'll accept that as an answer. But now it's my turn, and I still don't know. My thing is that I usually try to stick with games that I know I'll like, or I've tried and have liked. So, I can't think of one that I just raged about.
Well, let's go ahead then and just move on to question 3.
All right, I'll keep thinking about it. I'll try to keep thinking about it.
Okay, so number 3 is, what is your guilty pleasure game? And I have to say that for me, it would probably be, I mean, I guess I could technically say Animal Crossing, because it is an extremely simple game.
Mm-hmm.
And I do.
How are we defining this question?
Well, guilty pleasure, I think it's just more something that you aren't, that it's something that you wouldn't normally admit to most people that you like.
Okay.
Or at least that there are some people that you wouldn't tell them that you like it because, they make fun of you or what have you.
Okay, that makes more sense then. Gotcha.
So yeah, I would have to say
Alright, that's another tough question. 2 in a row.
The hills are alive with the sound of John thinking. He's trying to come up with games he doesn't like.
You do know I'm going to leave that in the final cut, right?
Of course.
Okay, excellent. Oh man, okay, let's see. Probably, I guess it kind of counts. It's a really stupid iPad game that is strangely addicting. And I can't even remember what the actual name of it is. It's basically like a version of Solitaire, but it's golf, and there's a gopher in it that you try to smash all of the time. That probably would be the one that I keep going back to when I just want to play something random. I can't even remember the name of it now. I just always turn it on. So that would probably be the guilty pleasure. If I can remember the name or find it, I will let you know. Yeah, dumb game, and I've set records in it and then bragged to my family about it. I don't know why, and then I feel stupid afterwards. So that would be it. I think it was just golf, like Solitaire Golf is the name or something like that. As for games I don't like, though, that's still a tough one.
Okay, just go with the worst game you've ever played.
I know, that's a tough one, too.
Come on!
This is what happens when you put me on the spot. Can't think that quick. I just keep thinking of all the good ones I have just played.
Was there ever a game that you started playing and then you put down, within an hour because of how crappy it was?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Okay, this one only kind of counts, because I'm still trying to play through it to see if it redeems itself, but as of right now, it's been on a standstill. I'm going to say Assassin's Creed at the moment. Mostly because, and this is not to say that it is the worst game I have ever played, because I'm sure there are others, I just can't think of them off the top of my head. But I started playing, having high hopes for this game, only hearing great things, and so far it has been repetitive. It has been basically the exact same side missions to just go kill this guy, and, I love assassin-type games, but it is almost every mission so far has been basically identical, except the town looks slightly different. I haven't been able to pick it back up, and that's been a couple months.
Yeah.
So, not the worst, and I'm sure there are plenty who would say, no, it's a fantastic game. Like I said, I'm still trying to play through it to see if it can redeem itself, but I haven't really wanted to. So, that's my reason. If I can come up with a better one, you will know. I will let you know.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would have to say one other thing that I would just add, and I've already kind of expressed this before, is that of what I played of the original Uncharted, I did not like it very much.
Mm-hmm.
And
see, this is where we do have different opinions.
What I can say is I thought that it was a fairly good-looking game. The sound was great. Especially the surround sound was awesome. I thought it had good voice acting. The story was definitely grabbing me.
Mm-hmm.
But the hit detection with the shooting was so bad.
See, and I know you've mentioned that before, but when I played, I never had a problem, so I'm not sure what's up.
Well, the thing is when you shoot a guy 3 times in the head and he doesn't die, that's when the hit detection is bad.
Yeah, I never had that. I don't know what was up with that.
Yeah,
that's strange.
I don't know. I mean, I've heard from other people that I'm not the only person who's had that problem.
Right, which could be true.
It may just be because I'm not good at dual joystick aiming, but I am pretty sure that every other game where I've played that I've had to aim at someone's head, I have not had a problem with it. Or if I've had a problem, it's only because I was moving too fast and that sort of thing. But
right.
Yeah, and that's just my opinion, and
Oh no, that's fine.
Eventually I will probably try to replay, finish the game, because I'm sure I was pretty close to the end, but I just got frustrated with it. So,
well, I will agree with you here. Towards the end of the game, I was really tired of shooting pirates.
Yeah,
and that is, every review or comment that I've heard from a lot of other people has said the exact same thing. Where in 2 and 3, I think they did a much better job on that.
Yeah, it was the lack of variety.
Mm-hmm. I was very surprised how many thousands of pirates they had available on that island.
Exactly.
Apparently, maybe they had cloning stations or something. I'm not sure how it worked.
I thought that a lot of things about the game were really fun. I really liked the exploration, the climbing, things like that, even though the environments at times felt a little cramped.
When I first went to go play that game, and this is coming from someone who did really, really enjoy it, I was more surprised. I thought it was going to be more adventure, and it did end up being more third-person shooter than I expected.
Yeah.
Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because like I said, I did really like it, but I was expecting more of maybe an Indiana Jones, Lara Croft type adventure, just with Nate Drake instead, and it did end up being more of a third-person shooter than I anticipated. Again, not a downfall, because I did really like the game, but I was tired of shooting pirates at the end.
Yeah. Alright, well, last thing I want to do, before we just get into our weekly recommendations, is I want to just give a couple shout-outs. In addition to Married to the Games, I also want to give shout-outs to the Nooketeers, which is one of my favorite podcasts. Very funny people. Gave me some good tips on starting up this podcast, and right now we're obviously still working a bit with a formula, trying to figure things out. But overall, I still appreciate the feedback you guys gave. Also, the Player One podcast, who really gave me the idea for the different intros for John and Ben if he ever comes back. And, yeah, you guys have been awesome.
Still can't believe I'm a hairy snowman.
Thank you for your advice as far as the game, the podcast goes, and I'm going to keep listening to you guys, and hopefully John will start listening to some gaming podcasts too, and help give some ideas as well.
Yeah, I do appreciate the info, guys. Thanks.
Okay, well, before we close out our weekly recommendations, what would be something you'd like to recommend, John?
Recommendations. Oof, this is always a good one. Well, since I have been playing Morrowind again, I would definitely like to say, if you haven't played it, go back, try that graphic overhaul. Morrowind Overhaul, I think, was the name of the mod. It's a very extensive mod. Well, more like extensive mods, being a couple hundred. It takes a bit of setup to get going, but definitely brought some life into an old game again, and I am having quite a bit of fun with that. Some people may not like, how it's more of a, not really vintage, but it is older, and it does show its age. With that overhaul, it definitely helps a little bit. So I don't know, having a good time with Morrowind again.
And that's exclusively on PC, right?
Yes, because you have to download the mod and get it.
Is it Mac compatible?
I'm not sure, actually. That's a good question. Because I've been playing on my PC, so if they have a Mac version, possibly, I have to look into that. Because the downloader that you install is an EXE, and I did not see a Mac DMG version.
Okay.
Basically what Morrowind Overhaul is it's just a bunch of mods that the community has already put out, and I'm still surprised that the modding community for Morrowind is as high as it is. It's one of the more active ones that I've ever seen, and they're still producing stuff to this day. Basically what they did is a bunch of guys took it upon themselves to accumulate all of these mods into one download. So you download it, and then they have a really intuitive installer that goes through all of this. So all these mods can be downloaded individually and applied. And so that would probably work for a Mac version, although I'm not even sure if there's a Mac version of Morrowind available.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, there probably is the Boot Camp, I would imagine.
Yes,
would work,
but you could do Boot Camp because that's just another version of Windows.
But depending on the quality of the mods, you may have to have a more beastly machine.
Yeah, the Well, let's just put it this way. The graphic mods I have set pretty much to max, and in certain areas, I can see a little bit of slowdowns actually in the frame rates, just because
that's on your...
Yeah, I got a pretty good one. Now, I'm not sure how well the game is optimized. I know it is not optimized for dual video cards. I do not have that set up yet, but if you do, they actually said it's better to run with just one video card. So I'm not sure how well they have it optimized. It definitely brings the eye candy up a bit. Nothing to, Skyrim on full res, I would imagine, but it definitely looks pretty good. So I'd say check out Morrowind again. Older game, but still a lot of fun. And for TV show, I'm going to say Arrested Development Season 4, just because, well, heck, the series, period. Funny show. Crazy family. I'm going to take that one.
All right. Well, my big recommendation is going to be, if you have a Wii U, Lego City Undercover. It is a fantastic game. It is definitely one of the best games I've played this year so far. In fact, it probably is the best game I've played this year so far. It is that good. You will have to deal with some load times that are rather long at moments, but it's really only when you go into missions that are off of the Outworld map, or if you, when you first start up the game. That's pretty much the only times I've found that you actually get the long loading screens. Other than that, it's usually pretty quickly, or can't speak, pretty quick. And it's a ton of fun. There's tons to do if you want a game that has a lot to offer and has lots of really good humor that's clean and that's family friendly. Definitely play that game.
Sweet.
If you're just looking for, if you're not into that kind of games and or you don't have a Wii U, L.A. Noire is one I very highly recommend as well. TV shows, I would have to probably echo Arrested Development Season 4.
Mm-hmm. So far, so good.
Yeah, it gets better as you go along. It starts a little slow, but it does get better. So, that would be it.
Awesome.
Well, listeners, if you'd like to continue listening to our podcast, you can find our blog at frozengamerspodcast.wordpress.com, where every time we have a new podcast, we will post that up with a description and some notes about what all is contained in the podcast. You can send us emails at frozengamerspodcast@gmail.com. You can like us on Facebook at Frozen Gamers Podcast. You can tweet us via Twitter at Frozen Gamers. And if you just want to listen to the podcast and don't really care about the description because you don't want spoilers or whatever, you can go to frozengamerspodcast.podomatic.com. That's PODOMATIC.com. And that's it for this week. We will probably be back next week, and thanks for listening.
Thanks.